Was this the best era in the automotive world? Now, I'm not saying the fastest cars, the most advanced cars, or even the best cars were built during this period. But if we're talking about cars that felt alive, cars that sounded incredible, and cars that still managed to strike the perfect balance between performance and simplicity, then the late 2000s and early 2010s have a very strong case. And today, we're going to look at why many enthusiasts believe this might have been the last true golden era of the automobile. One of the biggest reasons people look back so fondly on this era is how connected the cars felt. Many performance cars still used naturally aspirated engines, hydraulic steering systems, and relatively simple driver aids. Manufacturers weren't yet obsessed with massive touchscreens, endless driving modes, or filling every corner of the cabin with technology. Instead, the focus was still on the driving experience. Cars communicated with you through the steering wheel, through the chassis, and through the engine. Whether it was a BMW M3, a Porsche Cayman, or a Mercedes C63 AMG, every drive felt like an event. Even everyday performance cars had a personality that seems increasingly rare today. What's even more fascinating is that manufacturers weren't downsizing yet. In fact, many were doing the exact opposite. A perfect example is BMW. The legendary E46 M3 came with a 3.2-liter, naturally aspirated inline-six, a fantastic engine that many enthusiasts still adore today. But when BMW introduced its successor, the E90 and E92 M3, they didn't reduce the engine size. They increased it. The E46's six-cylinder was replaced with a 4.0-liter, naturally aspirated V8. Not only did displacement increase, but BMW added to extra cylinders as well. Today, that sounds almost unbelievable. Imagine a manufacturer announcing that the next generation of a performance car would receive a larger engine and more cylinders. Back then, however, it wasn't unusual. Performance was still being pursued through displacement and engine character rather than turbochargers and efficiency targets. And nowhere was this more obvious than in Germany. During this period, BMW, Audi, and Mercedes-Benz were engaged in what felt like an all-out horsepower war. The BMW E90 and E92 M3, as mentioned earlier, featured a high-revving 4.0-liter V8, Audi's B7, RS 4-packed, a naturally aspirated 4.2-liter V8. And Mercedes-Benz answered with the legendary C63 AMG and its massive 6.2-liter, naturally aspirated V8. Think about that for a moment. 3 rival manufacturers, 3 mid-size performance saloons, and all 3 powered by naturally aspirated V8 engines. It's difficult to imagine something like that happening today. Not because manufacturers don't want to build those engines, but because regulations, emission standards, and market demands have changed dramatically. At the time, though, it was an incredible era for enthusiasts. Each car had its own unique personality, but all of them delivered unforgettable soundtracks. Of course, this era wasn't going to last forever. Manufacturers soon realized that turbocharging could provide similar performance, while improving fuel economy and reducing emissions. On paper, it made perfect sense. Smaller engines, fewer cylinders, more torque, better efficiency. What's not to like? Well, enthusiasts weren't immediately convinced. One of the best examples came when BMW replaced the V8-powered E92 M3 with the F80 M3. The new car was objectively quicker, more efficient, and more powerful. But many enthusiasts criticized the move from a naturally aspirated V8 to a turbocharged inline-six. The performance figures improved, yet some felt that the character and emotion had been reduced. That debate continues to this day. And while modern turbocharged engines are incredibly capable, many enthusiasts still miss the drama, sound, and responsiveness of the naturally aspirated engines that came before them. Perhaps the strongest argument for this period being a golden age is simply the sound. The late 2000s and early 2010s produced some of the greatest engine notes ever heard on public roads. The E92 M3's screaming V8. The thunderous C63 AMG. The Lexus LFA. The Porsche Carrera GT. The list goes on and on. Part of the reason these cars sounded so incredible is that regulations were less restrictive than they are today. Manufacturers had more freedom to prioritize character and emotion. Modern cars are faster than ever, but many enthusiasts would argue that very few sound better than the machines built during this period. So, was this the best era in automotive history? The answer is completely subjective. Some people will point to the muscle car era. Others will choose the golden age of rallying or the supercar boom of the 1990s. But there is no denying that the late 2000s and early 2010s gave us something special. Cars were powerful, but still relatively simple. Manufacturers were building larger engines rather than smaller ones. Naturally aspirated performance cars were everywhere, and perhaps most importantly, cars had a sense of character that many enthusiasts still miss today. Maybe they weren't the best cars ever made, but they might just have been the best sounding, and that alone is enough to make this era unforgettable. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, what do you think was the greatest era in automotive history?